Hello everyone, Dr. Alan Mandell here. Welcome back to my channel, Science of Healing. Let me ask you something important. If you're over the age of 75 or getting close, what you eat today will determine how strong, mobile, and independent you remain tomorrow. As an orthopedic surgeon, I've spent decades looking at x-rays, MRIs, worn down joints, fragile bones, and muscles that simply stopped working the way they used to. And I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Aging is not just about time, it's about nutrition. Now, eggs have long been praised as a perfect protein, and yes, they are nutritious. But after the age of 75, your body changes dramatically. Your digestion weakens, your ability to absorb protein drops, your bones lose minerals faster, your muscles resist rebuilding, and your joints need far more targeted support than they did in your 40s or 50s. And that's why today I want to talk about a food that surprises almost everyone. A cheese that in many cases is far more powerful than eggs for older adults. Not because of hype, not because of trends, but because of biology. The cheese I'm talking about is aged hard cheese, specifically Parmesan cheese. After the age of 75, the rules of nutrition change in a way most people are never told, and this single misunderstanding is quietly stealing strength, balance, and independence from millions of older adults every year. You can eat what you believe is a high-protein diet. You can follow the same habits that worked in your 40s, and yet your muscles continue to shrink, your legs weaken, and simple tasks like standing up or climbing stairs begin to feel exhausting. This is not because protein stops working. It's because your body stops responding to it the same way. Science calls this anabolic resistance, and it is one of the most powerful, least discussed drivers of aging. Research shows that after 70, the muscles become far less sensitive to protein signals, meaning the body requires a stronger, faster, more concentrated amino acid trigger just to maintain the muscle you already have. Without that signal, the body quietly dismantles muscle tissue, even if calories and protein appear adequate on paper. This is why older adults can lose muscle even while eating daily protein, and why falls, fractures, and loss of independence accelerate so rapidly after 75. Eggs are often praised as the gold standard of protein, and for younger adults, they truly are. But here is the uncomfortable truth backed by physiology. Eggs require significant digestion, strong stomach acid, and efficient enzyme production to break their protein down into usable amino acids. After 75, stomach acid commonly declines, pancreatic enzymes weaken, and gut efficiency drops. Studies show that older adults digest and absorb intact proteins more slowly, meaning the amino acids arrive late, diluted, and often insufficient to trigger muscle protein synthesis. The muscle simply does not get the message in time. And when the message doesn't arrive, the muscle doesn't rebuild. This is where aged hard cheese changes everything. During the long aging process of true Parmesan, sometimes lasting more than 2 years, natural enzymes break down complex milk proteins into smaller peptides and free amino acids. By the time this cheese is eaten, much of the digestive work has already been done. This is not marketing, it is biochemistry. Research shows that pre-digested or hydrolyzed proteins are absorbed faster and more efficiently in older adults, producing a stronger anabolic response than intact proteins, even when total protein intake is lower. That means the body doesn't have to struggle. The signal arrives quickly, clearly, and powerfully. And the most important part of that signal is leucine. Leucine is not just another amino acid. It is the master switch for muscle preservation. It activates a cellular pathway known as mTOR, which tells muscle cells to stop breaking down and start rebuilding. After 75, the leucine threshold required to activate this pathway rises sharply. Eggs contain leucine, but not in the concentration or speed that aging muscle demands unless eaten in larger amounts that many seniors simply cannot tolerate or digest. Aged Parmesan, ounce for ounce, contains one of the highest natural concentrations of leucine available in whole foods. More importantly, that leucine is rapidly available. Studies on older adults consistently show that faster amino acid delivery leads to greater muscle protein synthesis, even with smaller portions. This matters because appetite declines with age, chewing becomes harder, and large meals become uncomfortable. Parmesan solves this problem by delivering a dense, efficient anabolic signal in a small volume of food. This is why orthopedic surgeons see a direct connection between diets rich in easily absorbed protein and reduced rates of sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass that predicts falls, fractures, and disability more accurately than almost any other factor. Muscle is not just about strength, it is metabolic armor. It stabilizes joints, protects bones, regulates blood sugar, and even communicates with the brain through chemical messengers called myokines. When muscle disappears, balance falters, reaction time slows, and the risk of catastrophic injury rises dramatically. What makes this even more urgent is that muscle loss after 75 is often silent. There is no pain, no warning, just a gradual narrowing of physical capacity until one misstep changes everything. The shocking reality is that this decline is not inevitable. Clinical nutrition research shows that older adults who consume leucine-rich, rapidly absorbed protein can maintain muscle mass far longer than those who rely on traditional protein sources alone. This is not about eating more, it is about eating smarter. Parmesan's protein is not only dense, it is efficient, meaning less digestive stress, less inflammation, and a greater return on every bite. Even more surprising is that aged Parmesan contains virtually no lactose, making it far easier to tolerate than many expect. For aging digestive systems, this matters. Inflammation and gut discomfort reduce nutrient absorption even further, compounding muscle loss. A food that nourishes without taxing the system becomes invaluable. This is why in geriatric nutrition, quality of protein now outweighs quantity. A small daily serving of aged Parmesan can deliver a muscle-preserving signal that larger meals of slower proteins simply fail to provide. And when that signal is delivered consistently, day after day, the body responds. Muscle breakdown slows, strength stabilizes, mobility lasts longer, independence extends. This is not a miracle. It is biology respected instead of ignored. After 75, the question is no longer, are you eating protein? The real question is your body actually receiving it? For millions of older adults, the answer has been no, not because they didn't try, but because no one explained that absorption is everything. Aged Parmesan changes that equation by meeting the aging body where it is, not where it used to be. And when nutrition finally aligns with physiology, aging stops being a free fall and starts becoming something that can be managed, protected, and slowed. After the age of 75, bone loss is no longer a slow process. It becomes a silent acceleration, and most people never realize it until the moment a simple fall changes their life forever. A hip fracture after 75 is not just a broken bone. Medical data shows it often marks the beginning of rapid physical decline, loss of independence, and in many cases, shortened lifespan. What makes this especially tragic is that many older adults believe they are doing everything right. They take calcium supplements, they drink milk, they follow advice they were given decades ago. Yet their bones continue to thin, weaken, and fracture. The reason is not a lack of calcium. It is a failure of absorption. As we age, stomach acid declines, vitamin D activation weakens, and the gut's ability to pull minerals into the bloodstream becomes significantly impaired. Research shows that after 75, a large percentage of consumed calcium simply passes through the body unused. It looks good on a nutrition label, but it never reaches the bones. This is why supplement studies repeatedly show disappointing results in fracture prevention among the elderly. Calcium alone does not build bone. Calcium that is absorbed does, and this is where aged Parmesan cheese becomes biologically extraordinary. Unlike milk or isolated supplements, Parmesan contains calcium that is naturally bound to protein peptides and phosphorus in a matrix that the aging gut recognizes and absorbs more efficiently. During the long aging process, sometimes extending beyond 2 years, biochemical changes occur that increase mineral bioavailability. Studies on dairy matrix effects show that calcium consumed as part of a fermented, aged food is absorbed at significantly higher rates than calcium consumed in isolation. This matters because bone is not just mineral, it is living tissue that requires protein, phosphorus, and calcium together to remodel and strengthen. Eggs contain almost no calcium, which means they contribute virtually nothing to skeletal integrity. Parmesan, ounce for ounce, contains one of the highest calcium densities of any whole food on the planet, delivering hundreds of milligrams in a form the body can actually use. What makes this even more critical after 75 is that bone remodeling slows, but bone breakdown accelerates. Osteoclast activity increases while osteoblast activity declines, meaning bones lose density faster than they rebuild. When calcium availability drops at the cellular level, the body compensates by pulling calcium from existing bone, weakening the skeleton from the inside out. This is why X-rays of older adults often reveal porous, fragile bone long before a fracture occurs. The shocking truth is that many fractures happen not because of severe trauma, but because bone quality was already compromised. Parmesan's unique composition helps interrupt this process by delivering not only calcium, but the amino acids needed to support collagen formation within bone. Bone is approximately 30% collagen by volume, and without adequate protein scaffolding, calcium has nowhere to anchor. Research shows that older adults with higher protein intake have better bone density and lower fracture risk, despite outdated myths that protein harms bones. Parmesan provides both structural protein and mineral reinforcement in one highly absorbable package. Even more important is the presence of phosphorus in aged cheese, a mineral essential for forming hydroxyapatite crystals, the rigid structure that gives bones their strength. Calcium without phosphorus is incomplete. Supplements often ignore this balance, but whole foods do not. Another overlooked factor after 75 is inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation accelerates bone resorption, and many ultra-processed foods worsen this state. Aged Parmesan, when consumed in small, controlled amounts, does not spike blood sugar, does not burden digestion, and does not trigger inflammatory responses seen with refined carbohydrates. This creates a metabolic environment where bone preservation is more likely. There is also the issue of appetite. Older adults often eat less, which means every bite must matter more. Drinking multiple glasses of milk or swallowing large pills is unrealistic for many seniors. Parmesan solves this problem by delivering concentrated nutrition in small amounts. Just 1 to 2 ounces can supply a meaningful portion of daily calcium needs without overwhelming the digestive system. And unlike milk, aged Parmesan contains virtually no lactose, making it tolerable even for those who believe they cannot consume dairy. This is why clinical observations consistently show better bone outcomes in older populations that consume fermented, aged dairy compared to those relying on supplements alone. The difference is not tradition, it is physiology. Bones respond to what the body can absorb, not what is merely consumed. What makes this even more compelling is the link between bone strength and muscle. Strong bones require muscular tension to stay dense. When muscle weakens, bones follow. Parmesan supports both systems simultaneously by preserving muscle protein synthesis while reinforcing mineral density. This dual effect is rare and powerful after 75, when the body can no longer afford nutritional inefficiency. The frightening reality is that many older adults are one fracture away from losing their independence, not because aging is cruel, but because nutrition was misunderstood. Bone loss is not inevitable. It is responsive to the right signals. When calcium arrives bound to protein, supported by phosphorus, delivered in a form the gut can absorb, bones listen, they stabilize, they resist fracture, they hold. After 75, nutrition is no longer about tradition or habit, it is about survival biology. The foods that once worked may no longer be enough. Aged Parmesan stands out not as a luxury, but as a tool, one that respects the realities of the aging body and provides what it truly needs to stay upright, stable, and unbroken for as long as possible. After the age of 75, the greatest threat to independence is not disease, not even weakness, but something far more underestimated: loss of balance and joint stability, a slow unraveling of the body's internal communication system that most people never realize is happening until the moment they fall. Falls are now one of the leading causes of injury and death in older adults worldwide, and the most chilling fact is that many of these falls occur during ordinary movements, standing up, turning around, stepping off a curb. This is not bad luck. It is biology breaking down. As we age, joints stiffen, cartilage thins, muscles weaken, and the nervous system loses speed. But what few people are told is that these systems are deeply connected, and when one fails, the others soon follow. At the center of this connection is muscle tissue, which after 75 becomes far more than a source of strength. Muscle acts as a sensory organ, constantly sending signals to the brain that control balance, coordination, and reflexes. When muscle mass declines, these signals weaken. Reaction time slows. The brain receives delayed information about body position. This is why older adults often say, "My feet didn't move fast enough," or "I lost my balance before I knew what happened." Science now confirms that muscle loss, known as sarcopenia, is one of the strongest predictors of falls, even more powerful than bone density alone. And here is the shocking part: muscle loss accelerates dramatically after 75, even in people who appear active. Without the right nutritional signals, the body prioritizes survival over strength, quietly dismantling muscle tissue to conserve energy. This directly affects joints. Muscles act as shock absorbers and stabilizers for the knees, hips, and spine. When they weaken, joints take the full force of movement. Cartilage wears faster. Inflammation increases, pain limits motion, and reduced motion accelerates muscle loss even further, creating a downward spiral that can end in immobility. What breaks this cycle is not exercise alone. Exercise without proper nutrition often fails in older adults because the body cannot rebuild what activity breaks down. This is where the muscle-brain connection becomes critical. Healthy muscle releases myokines, signaling molecules that travel to the brain and improve neural communication, balance control, and even cognitive function. Studies show that older adults with greater muscle mass have better gait speed, faster reflexes, and significantly lower fall risk. Muscle is not optional tissue after 75. It is protective tissue, and preserving it requires protein that the aging body can actually use. Aged Parmesan cheese plays a unique role here because it delivers not only easily absorbed protein, but specific amino acids essential for joint and connective tissue health. Cartilage is rich in collagen, a protein built from amino acids like proline, glycine, and glutamic acid, all present in high concentrations in aged cheese. Unlike many protein sources, Parmesan provides these amino acids in a form that requires minimal digestion, allowing them to reach joints and connective tissues more efficiently. This matters because cartilage has no direct blood supply. It depends entirely on diffusion from surrounding tissues, which becomes less efficient with age. When nutrient availability drops, cartilage thins and cracks, contributing to stiffness and instability. Research in orthopedic science shows that joint degeneration accelerates when muscle support declines, not just when cartilage wears out. Strong muscles keep joints aligned, distribute load evenly, and protect ligaments from strain. When muscle protein synthesis slows, joint mechanics suffer. Parmesan supports muscle preservation through its high leucine content, which activates muscle-building pathways even in older adults with anabolic resistance. This leads to stronger stabilizing muscles around the knees and hips, improving balance and reducing joint stress. But the impact does not stop there. Balance is controlled by a complex interaction between muscles, joints, inner ear, and brain. Proprioception, the sense of body position, relies on sensory receptors embedded in muscles and connective tissue. As muscle mass declines, these receptors become less responsive. Studies show that sarcopenia is associated with impaired proprioception and increased sway during standing and walking. By preserving muscle tissue, you preserve these sensory inputs, allowing the brain to make faster, more accurate adjustments. This is the difference between catching yourself and falling. Nutrition that supports muscle integrity therefore directly supports balance and independence. What makes this especially urgent is that balance training alone cannot fully restore lost muscle-brain signaling if the nutritional foundation is missing. Many seniors participate in physical therapy or balance exercises but see limited improvement because their bodies lack the raw materials to adapt. Parmesan, consumed consistently in small amounts, provides a steady stream of amino acids that support neuromuscular health without overloading digestion. Its low lactose content and high nutrient density make it practical for aging bodies that struggle with appetite and tolerance. There is also an emotional dimension to this that science increasingly recognizes. Loss of balance creates fear. Fear reduces movement. Reduced movement accelerates decline. Preserving muscle and joint stability helps maintain confidence, which keeps older adults active, socially engaged, and mentally resilient. This psychological feedback loop is as real as the physical one. The data is clear. Older adults who maintain muscle mass experience fewer falls, fewer hospitalizations, and longer periods of independent living. The tragedy is that this preservation is often possible, yet overlooked. Independence after 75 is not determined by willpower or genetics alone. It is determined by whether the body continues to receive the signals it needs to stay coordinated, responsive, and strong. Aged Parmesan is not a miracle food, but it is a strategic one. It respects the realities of aging physiology by delivering concentrated, absorbable nutrients that support muscle, joints, and the brain simultaneously. In a body where efficiency now matters more than quantity, this makes a measurable difference. When muscles remain strong, joints remain stable. When joints remain stable, balance improves. When balance improves, independence is preserved. And after 75, independence is everything.